the national seashore. This country is going into tyranny. Mike Rivero, good to have you joining us from Hawaii, sir.
Aloha nui nui nui.
What do you think of my contraband shirt? I mean, I'm evil.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely you are. And it looks really good on you. I have to say that at the same time. Some of the shirts that we have, we get these mixed reactions to. Pretty much everyone sort of gives a stink face with the Eat the Rich T-shirts. But the one about I survived the Bush economy and all I have left is this lousy T-shirt, that one tends to get a lot of laughs. But while I was listening to you, I have a suggestion, and I'll probably do this on my T-shirts, and you should do it on yours, is just something where instead of sort of being this confrontational image of us and them, is to include them into the issue, such as bailout means you are now on the hook for $100,000. So when the cops are looking at that T-shirt and they start thinking, yeah, that means me as well. The government is sticking me with all these hundreds of thousands of dollars of bills to give to the bank, and maybe start pulling them over a little bit more to our side rather than justifying their paranoia and their defensiveness.
Well, no, I agree with you. In fact, I didn't confront the security guard, but I mean, he came up, he was acting like he was buying something. Then he walked right over and looked at my shirt and then looked at the back because they'd looked at me on surveillance camera and, come down to see this dangerous person with a Minuteman on his shirt. God forbid I wear this yellow one in public. But I thought that was made up and exaggerated. But I had all these shirts printed up, and now I'm wearing them around town and other places, and I'm experiencing it where these cops have really been brainwashed. And exactly, they're having their futures destroyed as well, Mike. They should want to stand with the Gadsden flag. They should want to stand with Paul Revere. I mean, how is Paul Revere bad?
Well, you're absolutely right, and the point is, I think we need to start rethinking our approach to the ordinary man-in-the-street police, because you're right, they've been brainwashed, they've been given all these reports that say anybody wearing any of these T-shirts, we're the bad guys. So rather than reinforce that, I think we need to rethink some of our designs to where we say, you and I are really the same against this common enemy. Do you have a $500,000 lying around you're not doing anything with? Because that's your share of the federal government's debt that they've borrowed and stuck you with the payments. And obviously it needs to be rendered much more simple and elegant for a T-shirt. But the idea is that if we don't reinforce these preconceptions they've been brainwashed with, we stand a much better chance of drawing them over to our side of the issues.
Well, I agree with you. A lot's going on. Greg Palast and others are reporting, basically breaking down the same thing that we've said, because we have the government documents. GM was planning years ago to move to China and Brazil and just, to become completely global. The media keeps billing it as if it's a bankruptcy and socialism and a government bailout. It's not. It's just like tax incentives for companies to leave the United States. This is a tax incentive. And under the NAFTA and GATT rules, under the World Trade Organization rules, General Motors cannot use bailout money to carry out U.S. operations. It has to be open to bidding and be spread out globally. And that's why they said they can't use the economic stimulus money domestically. It has to be spent internationally. And so to see GM fall, to see Chrysler fall in the last month, to see the government now saying they're going to buy up basically the newspapers, where do you see all this going, Mike Rivero?
Well, I noticed this morning that our manufacturing index continues to decline, and the bottom line fundamental truth is if you're not making products to sell, you cannot save the economy. It really does seem as if the government simply wants to buy up and own everything. It's amazing. The USSR fell and Russia became capitalist. Now we seem to be heading into this totally communistic, socialistic, fascistic state where the government will own everything. We'll all be technically government employees. But the bottom line is, if we're not manufacturing, if we're not making products to sell, we can't save this economy. We just can't. And every day we get another news report about how the banks are showing profits, not because they're really profitable, but they're playing more of these bookkeeping tricks to take all of these huge losses they're absorbing and somehow through the magic of numbers turn them around and say, see, this is really a profit, buy my stock. And it's rigging and gaming and patchovers. I don't think this economy can be saved, and I'm starting to come around more and more to this idea that you've been promoting, that this has to be intentional, that there's got to be something else behind it, because government is generally stupid, I will grant you. They can't be this stupid that they don't understand that taking the jobs away from working class America and the clients away from the middle class is what is pulling down our economy from the foundation upward.
Well, the reason that I've known this was by design was because, Mike, and I know you're not a dull knife yourself there in the drawer, that the IMF and World Bank are the international fronts for the private banking family syndicates that own the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, the Bundesbank, and others on record. And they go around and do the same thing they're doing to the West, they've done to third world countries in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, and the Middle East. Though the Middle East, knew what this was and hasn't been as trusting, and so they're not being as hurt as bad by it, so they get the old-fashioned military invasion because they won't be economically captured. Serbia wouldn't take a globalist-controlled central bank, so you saw what happened there. They hired a bunch of Muslims to attack them. Then when they defended themselves, they said, oh, look, they're evil. And then, Al-Qaeda, the CIA's favorite attack dog, went in against them. So this happens over and over again. That's how we know that it's engineered. Then we have all their different IMF and World Bank documents where they talk about how they want to bring in this crisis to offer the solution. And George Soros is bragging about how he loves this. This is the culmination of his life. He's having a great crisis.
It is. It's rather amazing, but where I think they're going to stumble on this is I think most people around the world are recognizing that what turned an American economic downturn into a global catastrophe was globalism, that all this interlinking between countries. And I think when they stand up there and say we need more globalism as the solution, I think a lot of people are going to they're going to be very, very distrustful of this. They're going to balk. They're going to say this doesn't make any sense. If we've got a house on fire over here, let's not go down the street, chop up the other houses, and throw the wood on the fire to try and put it out, which is basically what globalism amounts to.
Absolutely. There's a host of issues to discuss with Mike Rivero today in the 40 minutes we have left with him. We're also going to be taking your calls at 1-800-259-9231. But, Mike, when we come back, what are some of the issues you think are most important you'd like to discuss today?
Well, obviously the torture scandal is not going to be going away anytime soon. We definitely need to deal with that. We definitely need to deal with the fact that the U.S. government's handling of the economy is exactly opposite what it is.
And I'm aware of it. And I have a desire, as Thomas Jefferson said, to set bushfires in the minds of men and women everywhere to realize what's really happening. Yeah, the torture issue isn't going away because they've tried to say it isn't torture, but everybody knows waterboarding and raping people's children in front of them, as the Army's own report admits, is torture. Now it comes out, what we already knew, the Democrats were complicit all along in going along with this. Bush protects them when they're out of office. They protect him when he's out of office. And really, I think the illusion that was Obama is now imploding. Even Lou Rockwell was on the show Friday, and he said he had supported Obama early on, believing all his crap. You had done that, but I think now the fact that we've all been betrayed only illustrates how both parties are controlled. Where do you see this torture scandal going?
Well, it's going to keep on growing. It's going to go on festering. I think Barack Obama committed a major mistake by trying to block the release of these most recent photographs because, first of all, it shows he's an accessory after the fact in war crimes. He's complicit in the cover-up. And more to the point, now that he's gone to the Supreme Court and they've given him an additional 30 days to file documents regarding whether or not these pictures should be sealed, it gives the world another 30 days to let their imaginations run free about what the pictures might show. And after 30 days, no matter what pictures are released, people are going to assume they've been altered, they've been airbrushed, they've been faked, they've been sanitized. So it's just made matters all that much worse. We're getting confirmation reports from other sources that these pictures do indeed show the sexual assault of people. And the bottom line is that the U.S. government's credibility on the torture issue or the enhanced interrogation is that somehow these people deserved it and that somehow these methods were necessary to protect lives. But when you get into situations of children being sodomized in front of their mothers, nobody's going to believe that that had anything to do with protecting national security. And the bottom line is, behind all of it, the real core issue that is the most protected point in the scandal is the fact that, we've had Cheney come out and admitted Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. We all know there were no weapons of mass destruction. The entire war in Iraq hinged on the claim that Iraq was aiding al-Qaeda. We now know that was based on a single confession extracted under torture. And as soon as the torture was over, the guy retracted the confession and said, look, I just said that to get you to stop. And now that, of course, people are trying to find out just how we got into Iraq, this individual has conveniently committed suicide or been suicided. And so this is the real scandal behind it all. Forget all the sodomy and the rape and all the rest of the stuff, is the fact that the entire war in Iraq and 4,000 dead Americans and thousands more crippled was based on a confession extracted under torture. We had no real legitimate reason to be there. We have no real legitimate reason to remain. Why are we still in there? Why is Obama talking about extending our troop presence there, strengthening our troop presence there? Another $100 billion war appropriation just passed Congress. Why? What are we doing there? The entire war is based on a lie. We are the bad guys. We are the aggressors.